What's up everyone, it's Felix the Fox, and today we will be talking about the epitome of Game Freak not fully understanding what fans want in their games with the fumbled mess of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Imagine yourself in a restaurant, and the chef there decides he's going to change the recipe of his signature classic dish with a new modern take that other new restaurants have adapted and seen success with in order to get newer customers in their door. So you end up getting served your favorite dish with little resemblance of the original and motion controls plastered all over it that you end up chasing your plate the whole time before you can actually eat it. Yeah. That's the best way I can sum up what happened with these two games. Released on November 16, 2018, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were designed to be remakes of Pokemon Yellow, not the original Red and Blue, with sprinkles of influence for the mobile sensation Pokemon Go. But I think the new recipe here that they created really didn't go over well with a veteran seasoned palette and possibly alienated even new fans that they designed this game to be for. Instead of doing a straightforward nostalgia trip like we would see later with games like BDSP, Game Freak decided to shake things up and come up with a brand new catching mechanic for these games, and use the safe play of using Kanto to try it out. To fully understand why this happened though, we need to go back just a bit. In 2016, people were swept up in wonder and amazement with catching creatures on their phone with Pokemon Go. You had people wandering into traffic, trespassing on private property, and genuinely acting like Psyducks on a bender, all for the sake of catching virtual animals. One of the original composers on the original two games, Junichi Masuda, has stated that we saw the immense popularity of Pokemon Go and wanted to bridge the gap between mobile players and traditional fans of the series. So following that, Game Freak took the format of Pokemon Yellow, threw it to a blender with Pokemon Go and motion controls, and out popped a smoothie that had potential, but was still just a bit watered down. With traditional remakes like Fire Red and Soul Silver, Game Freak struck gold by adding dashes of updated graphics, blended in new features, and overall just added quality of life improvements. Now, I understand why they wanted to change the way they did remakes, but I don't think they had too much confidence in the Let's Go tactic after this, because after the fact we would get a soulless remake with BDSP that didn't offer anything near as good as what we got with those remakes on the DS and the Game Boy Advance, and I felt like there was way less effort put into BDSP than even these Let's Go games. Getting into the main differences with the Let's Go games, the game itself looks incredible. The graphics look amazing for a Switch game. You can even see the fur on the Pokemon in incredible detail that I don't think Sword or Shield or Scarlet and Violet have recreated or mastered as well as this. And as far as quality of life improvements, I have two favorite mechanics that started in this game and have been carried over to the main series titles that are game changers. Number one, the access to boxes within the main menu. This is huge. You no longer have to travel or fly to a Pokestop in order to access and look at your boxes. This makes the game itself feels like 10 times faster, and since the whole point of these games is to catch as many Mon as possible, it makes sense for them to add this feature in. Fans loved it so much that it was incorporated into later games. The next mechanic, I think, had more of an impact on the series as a whole because it was where the series should have been all along. Pokemon in the overworld. For the first time ever, Pokemon are now seen in the overworld, in their habitats, and around other Pokemon. I'm not exaggerating, this was mind-blowing the first time I saw it. I was ecstatic to get this game because for the first time ever, I think I would actually feel like a real Pokemon trainer immersed in a real Pokemon world. But I think because of this, with the way the catching mechanic was made, they wanted the immersion to be a bit too real. So let's talk about how the catching mechanic works. Okay, if you don't know already, you use motion controls in dock mode to catch Pokemon in the overworld. No longer do you need to participate in a wild battle or run over grass until you trigger a random encounter. You can walk right up to a Pokemon and start catching it. In the first few hours of the game, this is really fun and addicting. I was having a blast, raising my catch combo to catch better versions of certain Pokemon with better IVs, catching the same ones over and over and over to find shinies. I mean, this game had me hooked. And then, in the latter half of the game, when the story and the plot start to pick up, you realize what Game Freak had to do to compensate for the harder and more rare Pokemon. They decided to make you play darts on a spinning platform while wearing high heels. See, trying to catch like an Abra or a Ghastly that is darting all over the screen like they drank 5 espresso shots really adds to the frustrations of this game, and I'm not joking, once you pass Lieutenant Surge, in my opinion, these games really start to tank. catching Pokemon becomes a little repetitive, but not in the traditional sense where you are spamming A for 3 hours. No, this is way more repetitive and annoying because of the fact that you have to keep expending energy. In a traditional Pokemon game, my brain gets tired before anything else. In these games, my wrist and shoulder gives out before anything else. And yes, you do have the option to play these games in handheld mode, but you lose the multiplier as everything is much easier in handheld mode, and so there's no point in doing that. But going back to how this game is more closely related to Pokemon Yellow, we have the partner Pokemon. In Pokemon Yellow, you aren't given one of the original starters, but you can get them later in the game. Instead, you are given a Pikachu, one that can't evolve, and just like in this game, trying to order a real steak at a vegan restaurant, you just can't have it. That's right, they give you a Pikachu, or an Eevee, you know, the Pokemon that is known for evolving and having more evolution forms than any other Pokemon ever, and you can't evolve them. Which, yeah, I get it. Kinda. In the story sense and what they are going for, but like Eevee? Like really? If you have played Pokemon Yellow, then you know why they chose Eevee, because of the trade that you can do in that original game. But it seems really weird to me that the people who choose to buy Let's Go Eevee can't evolve that starter. The starter that's like based off evolution. Again, I get it. This is like your partner Pokemon. You're supposed to have a special bond with them. You're supposed to dress them up. But it seems like a really weird decision on Game Freak's part. Despite the mixed recipe on all of this, it sold like crazy, like any Pokemon game would. Within the first week, it sold 3 million, and by 2022, it had sold 15 million, making it one of the most sold games on the Switch. Because it's Pokemon. The influence of Pokemon Go is about as subtle as a Snorlax in a China shop, and the catching mechanics and mobile integration were made to lure in the casual crowd. But the hardcore players of the series felt their favorite delicacy was just now available worldwide at some fast food place. And to top everything off, this game is also very, very hand-holdy, Team Rocket being the epitome of this. See, there's like an objective, or an NPC, or Team Rocket telling you where to go every 5 seconds in this game. And yes, you can say that even the newer games like Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield also do the same thing. But trust me, I don't really think they're as bad as this. Sword and Shield you might can get onto for it's very linear, but this game really doesn't expect you to go out of your way at all to talk to anyone or explore. And that is the worst seasoning Game Freak could have added to this dish. Despite the obvious difference in the catching mechanic and battle system, this is one of the biggest changes Game Freak has made to their Pokemon games and really takes away the RPG element of the game. I like to explore in a Pokemon game and figuring things out for myself, but I understand that this also could just be my hot take. Visually, this game can be a feast for the eyes. It has its moments, and gameplay-wise, it's like trying to eat a taco that keeps falling apart every time you pick it up, with only getting a mild satisfaction when you get a bite every once in a while. But, love it or hate it, even a controversial dish can leave a lasting impression. You see, there are some amazing new mechanics and features in place here that change Pokemon for the better going forward, like changing out the bikes with riding Pokemon. That is a really cool feature that I'm so glad we got to see again in Scarlet and Violet. It works a bit differently, but for this game, bikes in Gen 1 and other games were really frustrating to me, and so with this game, just being able to ride your Pokemon around is really, really nice, and just feels smoother overall. But the problem is the package that this all came in just doesn't satisfy everyone. And I guess that's okay, but this game wasn't made for everyone. Game Freak really tried to make it that way though. They tried to market it that way, that they are trying to get hardcore series of the fans to like this game and casual series of the fans to like this game that have played Pokemon Go a bit more. But I think if they just spent a little more time on the drawing board and really sat down to try and figure out the best way to get Go players to play the original series, then this would probably be a very different game. See, if they really wanted to get new fans, they would have improved on this, or maybe have made another one, but we got Sword and Shield right after that, and then Arceus, which shook the formula up again, but that was way for the better, and honestly, Arceus feels 100 times more like a real trainer than Let's Go ever could. Then Scarlet and Violet came out, and we went back to the default catching system, which is like the biggest crime of that game. But despite all of that, Game Freak could have had a real gem here. But instead, we are just left with a game that might be one of the weirdest titles Game Freak has ever done, and also the most ambitious. Not everyone enjoys new recipes, or changes for that matter. especially when they make such a difference to the original dish. But sometimes changes can bring forth evolution and progress. Overworld Pokemon and being able to access your boxes within the pause menu are now series staples. Even if it's not everyone's cup of tea, I applaud Game Freak for trying something new, even if it came out in a fumbled nostalgic mess. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't hesitate to like and subscribe to join the foxhole and stay up to date with my newest videos. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.